Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, we have a special topic that a lot of you, I think, can relate. At least, lots of people that may struggle with this. Okay, so it's why who you are is not what you do. Okay, and it's interesting because um, you know our behaviors reflect a lot of things. But yeah, what we're trying to say is our identity doesn't change. Okay. But yes, it matters what we do. I'm not saying it doesn't, but our identity doesn't change. So let me show you what I mean here. So can you relate to this? So sometimes we mess up, right? So I can say I messed up, or I did something bad, you know. And then in my subconscious, I say to myself, therefore, I'm a bad person, or therefore, I'm a messed up person. Okay. And some of us don't stop there. We go further. We say, well, this is our subconscious talk, and all of this happens in seconds. So, bad people don't deserve to be loved or happy. Sometimes we don't let ourselves be happy. Okay. And we just continue to be miserable, and just self punish, self sabotage, reduce ourselves and hide or whatever, because our subconscious thinks this way. Or we can say, oh, I can't do this as well as this other person. And then your subconscious says, therefore, I'm not worthy and valuable. Okay. And then your subconscious adds to it and says, well, people who can't do things perfectly are not enough, or they're not important. Okay. So you relate to that. So all of the turquoise colored text, that's our subconscious adding extra. Okay, so we throw ourselves out and reject ourselves and just feel bad and sit in that space where we're just self-loathing, right? The truth is, yes, we did mess up. Okay, that's the truth. It's not going to go away. If we said something mean, or if we messed up, we that's it. That was the truth, right? And sometimes we can't do things as well as other people, right? But all the other things are extra. Okay? So, any thoughts on that? Okay, and there's people that hold on to these definitions for years. Okay, so wouldn't it be much better if we had an alternative, okay, to that behavior? Okay, wouldn't we be great for us to say, well, I messed up, or I did something bad, so therefore I need to change or correct something. Right? I'm always learning and progressing. So, that's why I change, right? And then we could say, well, can't do it as well as others. So I guess I need to keep practicing patiently until I improve. I'm making progress, and I can do this, right? I can do it. So wouldn't that be so much better? When you think about your loved ones, somebody that, you love, your kids, your nieces, nephews, spouse, or whatever, wouldn't it be nice to hear them say these things? Like, oh, I can't do it as well, or messed up there. Let me change that. Isn't it? That's so much nicer, isn't it? Okay. So the truth is, yes, still, we did something bad, we messed up. Okay. Or we are unable to do something as well. That's okay. Right. But this new interpretation, right, is so much better than the one previous, right? Right. And you can tell yourself, note to self, cheer up me, it's okay. Right. You can feel the full consequence of maybe your mistakes or whatever, um, you can feel that, but you don't need to add to it, right? Like so and so got hurt because of me, feel really bad, right? But you don't need to go to the point where you're like, well, now I suck and I'm the worst, and I don't ever deserve to be happy. let me go and punish myself. All right. So we have plenty of people in the world that experiences this, okay? How do we help them get to this point where they make these changes where they respond in this way, okay? Any thoughts? What have you guys done when people, have self-punished and said all these negative things about themselves, and then they don't want to allow themselves to be happy anymore? Yeah. Yep. You teach them how to have that growth mindset. Yeah. Okay. So all of this, we need to understand it first before we make changes. So I notice that, good advice, right, is not accepted all the time because people have their own set of beliefs. So we need to understand why we do this to ourselves. Okay. So why do we reject ourselves and throw ourselves out with the trash? Okay. So I discovered there are 5 things, and there may be more, but these are the general things that I discovered, and areas where we can focus on changing so that it improves what our beliefs are, so that we can have that growth mindset. Okay. So I think number 1 is not being clear on who you are and forgetting your divine identity. That's the biggest. Okay. Everybody in the world that is here is a child of God. Okay. But they forget that how special they are. And because they don't remember how special they are, they don't behave in that way. Okay, that they don't see their potential. So even if you say, oh, you can do it, it doesn't help them. It doesn't change them as much, right? So the second thing is they aren't clear on the ultimate purpose of divine progression. Like Amanda said, they don't know that they're here to grow. Right? Some people believe that they're here, and they don't even say that, but they believe that they're here to be entertained, have fun, or be comfortable. Okay. Number 3 is they are allowing themselves to be influenced by negative forces, right? So the voices in their heads, and the thoughts. Okay. Number 4 is lack of self-awareness. Haven't fully learned to use their divine power. Just haven't, recognize that they have choice, that they can change, that they can grow, okay, and they can create, right? And number 5 is they haven't learned the skills to change culture, traditions, and self-imposed limitations. Yeah, do you guys agree? So these are the core problems, the reason why we have those things in the surface where these people keep saying, oh, I suck, I'm the worst, oh, I messed up and I couldn't do it. Yeah. Thanks, Cheryl. Thumbs up there. Yeah. So I kind of pondered over this and thought long and hard, and I felt like, yeah, this is the main things. And if we address these things, it'll really help them make that mindset change, okay, that heart change. So that's all we're going to do today, guys, okay? I like doing energy balancing sessions with people. And during the sessions, there's a lot of things that are reoccurring. And because of that, I'm able to do presentations like this. I can gather up all of the anecdotal notes that I've made about where people are and how people have changed and what made them change. Okay, so I'll give you some of that insight here. I've done sessions on children as well. And, sometimes children, they believe that they are bad, because they did something bad, so therefore they're bad. So they are disqualified, and they will forever, be that way because that's who they are now. And so they continue this behavior of, behaving badly And then they get stuck in this negative feedback loop because the parents will tell them off. And then because the parents are telling them off, therefore they truly, it reinforces the fact that they're bad, right? And then they continue with this bad behavior, right? But sometimes, these kids, when I get them as students or whatever at school, I tell them they're amazing. And I do tutoring too. And even when I'm talking to them in sessions, when I change my belief and I tell them, that they're great, they're good, and they're a good child of God, suddenly their behavior changes, and they do hard things. I have parents, even my sister was tutoring her kids. She's like, they don't want to go to bed. They want to read more. They want to do these things, because you ask them to. And I'm like, yay, that's great. How like my friend, she's like, I can't even get 15-minute conversation with my son. How did you get 2 hours out of him? Right. And it's just, we know where we're leading these people. We know the core beliefs that we're changing. We're not telling them, behave this way, behave this way. The behaviors will change when their beliefs change. Okay. So teenagers, we've done sessions on them. And, it's the same thing. Because they don't feel like that they're good, they misunderstand their parents' intention. Well, my parents are doing that because of all these reasons, not because they really love me, right? They reject love and they rebel, because and then they do lots of self-destructive things, because in their subconscious, the subconscious believes that they don't deserve to be loved or happy or understood or supported, right? So, that's how they see the world, right? And I've seen teens change when they made that, understanding part of their belief. Okay. Young adults, they're withdrawn. They don't want to have a career. They don't want to go out. They don't want to do something and dream for their future, hide from society. They feel socially uncomfortable. They're distracted and they're just unambitious, right? And we can make changes there too. Mums and dads too. I've had sessions with them. They feel overwhelmed and anxious, overworked, unfulfilled, insecure, confused. Passing on that negative energy to their kids, and then so their kids are naughty and their kids behave poorly, and they just feel like, oh, all of this is just a big mess, and they don't know how to unravel it. Okay. So this is why it's so important for us to understand these things that I'm going to share with you today. All right. So here we go, guys. Any questions or comments, please put them in the box. Gives me a lot of feedback. It helps me know that, what I'm expressing is understood. Okay. So you already know that we need to change our story and our perspective on the world, right? By changing our beliefs and thoughts. That sounds great and all, but how do we do it? Okay. Well, we're going to make sure we change culture and tradition. We're going to make sure we, get rid of that limitation and fears. So these people who believe that because they messed up, now they're a mess up, because they're bad, bad actions, now they're bad people, right? It's because they see the world through those limitations. So let's help them change those limitations, okay? So they can see the world clearer. Okay. So those 5 things, we're going to cover them and how to resolve them. The first thing here, of course, is be clear on who you are. Okay, you can put in the box there. Who do you think you are? Right? You can ask people this as well. Okay, just to help you get a perspective on where they're at. And sometimes they haven't asked themselves this question. Right? Who are you? Okay. And once they kind of explore this a little bit, then you can say, well, here's what I know. Okay, that you are a beloved child of God with great potential. And this truth never changes. right? You belong to Heavenly Parents, right? When I discovered this as a teenager, I wasn't doing anything naughty or anything, but it just helped me so much just by telling myself that I can do anything, right? Because now I know that I have this divine identity. Yeah, it just gave me so much confidence to dream and to wish for more. Okay, you are innately good inside. Because a lot of people believe that we're born sinners or we're evil. Okay, your inner light is pure intelligence. And I don't want to get into too much doctrine, but yeah, there's a lot there. Okay, so your true divine identity. Okay, you can read these scriptures in the Bible and just pray over them. And then ask yourself, now that I know who I am, does my actions or what I'm doing align to my divine identity as a child of God? Okay. So just this alone will make a huge difference in people's lives. Okay. So that's where we go when people behave poorly and stuff. You can keep on telling them, you can do it, don't worry, encouraging, that's great, but really help them work on this core beliefs. Okay. Any thoughts, any comments?
This is so awesome. So good.
Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah, I'm excited to share this video with my family. Really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, this in particular has become really important from our granddaughter, because she can have some really negative experiences when she's staying with her father. And he and his girlfriend had a big blow up and they got kicked out of the house, and she gets kicked out with him. It's pretty traumatic for her. And she's this innocent little kid that says, did I do some, is this my fault? And her father tells her, yes, partly it's your fault. So that's what she comes home with. So we're always undoing all of that.
Yeah.
That's the root of why she gets so stressed and anxious.
Yeah, exactly. If you're bad, then, you just punish yourself in your subconscious, and all that happens really fast. When we tell people, oh, your subconscious thinks this way of you. Like, no, I don't. I'm like, well, here's the result. Look at what we're doing to ourselves. Yeah. So this is important. I think if we want to do convey this message to all these children, it's just so innocent, and then they get, caught up.
Yeah.
Right. So remember that your identity can never change. Like at birth, right? When we, birth our children, right? You love your child unconditionally, and that child does not need to earn your love or be worthy of it, right? So just looking at that picture of the mom, she has this relief, but then super joy. But that child is this little squishy, couple of minutes old baby, that you love that child so much already. And the reason is that that child is yours, right? And likewise, our Heavenly Father loves us because we're His, and He watches over us, and the Mother watches over us, and cares for us a lot more than we ever can realize. More than even our own parents, right? And He cares that you grow, right? Just like you care for your child and whether your child grows and progresses. That's it, right? If your child messes up and throws up all over you, or falls over when they're trying to walk, do you say, oh no, you messed up, oh no, I'm not going to love you anymore, now you're not my child? I mean, the fact that you birthed them and that person came from you, right, will never change, right? That's the truth. You see, so if you see yourself like this, you see yourself as this infant, as this God seed, God in embryo, then things change for you. then you're like, okay, well, I'm still a toddler. I'm trying to figure out how to master the elements and command the elements, and trying to figure out how to create. Right? I'll just keep trying. So it stops us from pausing or stopping our growth, right? And condemning ourselves. Like, this image is so powerful if you're a child, if you're a mother, right? Or if you're a caregiver. It's just so powerful because you have so much love for your child. You can't fathom your child saying, well, I'm not yours now because I messed up. It just doesn't make sense. So keep this in mind. Okay, keep this as an anchor. Like, I belong to Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. They love me. They're my parents. Okay, they want me to grow. All right, so the second thing here is you're here to progress. Sometimes people forget the purpose of their being here, right? So we start going off and figuring out, oh, maybe I'm here to have fun, and I'm here to just be comfortable, right? So we want them to know that progression, because the Lord cares more for our progression than even our comfort, okay? Because we grow as we allow ourselves to have that growing pain. Okay, so we can say to people, you are here to learn how to be powerful and positive. Because the more positive you are, the more your countenance show light. Okay, people can tell who you are. Yeah. As part of your progression, you need to grow and change to become a better version of yourself. So when people say, well, that's who I am and that's it, it's like, no, you can be better than this. Okay. Yeah. Who you are is great right now, and we all love you. It doesn't mean we love you less, but we're always here to progress. My kids just got enrolled in the school in Australia. And one of the things the principal said when she looked at them, she was like, you guys really excited to learn. And well, yeah, in a nerdy family. But it's just funny how she mentioned it and she pointed that out. And in my mind and heart, I thought, yeah, my kids, I really drilled this into them that they're here for progression, that they really want to grow. And so it seems like the principal is like a little bit like, oh, surprised that there's these teenagers that are just like, I'm here, I have to be here. But they're asking questions and they're like, oh, does it have this program and do you this, do that? And it's like, well, you guys look like you really want to learn. And I'm like, yeah. So it's so sweet to see, other people know why they're here, right? And so they're allowing themselves to go through discomforts and whatever price it takes to grow themselves, okay? And you have to understand that, part of growing, you will make mistakes, like a baby learning how to walk, you will fall on your bottom, right? We will have struggles and it will be uncomfortable as we change and grow, because that growth is painful sometimes. It's a refining fire, right? And no matter the experience, it doesn't change the fact that you are a beloved child of God. So yes, you may mess up and you might do things, but you're still a child of God at the end of the day. Okay? So we're progressing so that we can be comfortable, in our heavenly realm, right? So what do you need to do? Just keep praying and connecting to God to detect your life's purpose and then to fulfill it. Yeah. So encourage your children and people around you to pray. Right? If they're like, oh, I don't know, I have all these problems, your best advice is to pray. Okay? Let them go to God and not us getting in the way and coming up with solutions. Right? We need to get out of the way and let them have this struggle and wrestle with the Lord. Right? And then when they make the connection, it's amazing because you can keep on making that connection each step of the way. Okay? So that's very important principle to teach and to tell people. Okay. All right, so let's talk about growing and learning and maturing a little bit more. Right. Sometimes when people insist on, I suck, right, I have to kind of give them a little bit more examples. When you first learn how to ride a bike, sometimes we fall over. When you first learn how to read, right, and you didn't just pick up a newspaper and start reading it right away, right? You had to kind of start with something more basic, right? Or when you learn how to cook, did you not spill? Did you not make messes? Or when you learned math, right? We go back and say, oh, remember all the years that you've made mistakes in math, therefore you suck. But you're like, hang on, I already know my shapes. Now I know my numbers, right? I'm all right now. They're like, no, remember all those mistakes, right? You're not good enough. Doesn't make sense. You've learned something and now you move on, right? So I always give this example that, if your child is learning the multiplications and all year long they're messing up, but by the end of the year, and they take that multiplication test, they aced it. But the teacher doesn't say, oh, no, you still failed the course because all year long you've messed up. Doesn't make sense. It's who you become, right? So that's us, okay? So think of all the things that you're doing wrong, but you're trying to do better. Okay, we don't hold those mistakes against you all the time. Okay, as long as you're progressing, you've learned from your mistakes, you're not going to do that again or try not to. That's all that matters. Okay. All right. So I like this here. Fail his first attempt in learning. Right. We all will. And that's okay. It's part of learning. John Maxwell says, a man must be big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them. Isn't that great? When we mess up and then we beat ourselves up and we punish ourselves, that's being cowardice. If we say, okay, let me be spiritually and emotionally mature, face it, feel it. Yeah, it's painful, the natural consequence. And let's figure out how to, have this positive growth mindset, get on with it. One thing that really helps me is I remind myself that the atonement of Jesus Christ covered this. Yeah, it covered my stupidity. It's covered, covers my humanity, right? I'm just human. And sometimes I say dumb things and I do dumb things, but it's okay. I change. I'll do better. But he died and covered this. I don't have to, torture myself further. How does that help? How does that help me grow when I torture myself more? Yeah, it's, I'm sure Heavenly Father looks down on us and he's all, come on, get on with it. Get up, get on with it. Yeah. Any thoughts or comments? Yeah. Teach yourself and teach others to not be afraid of failing or making mistakes. I kind of chant to my kids often, don't worry, it's a rapid iteration, just keep on trying and, again and again. And then when we make mistakes, right, it's accelerated learning. When you have that courage to let yourself make the mistake and try and attempt things, that's accelerating learning. Because if people don't attempt anything and they sit there because they're so afraid of making mistakes, they're not growing. And it doesn't mean you're bad, doesn't mean you're not enough, it doesn't mean you're not important. So we're changing the meaning here, okay? Okay. So number 3, listen to the correct voices, right? They're letting themselves be influenced by the negativity. So let's teach our family and friends the 4 voices, okay? So the first voice is Heavenly Father's voice. And then the second one is Satan's voice, right? So we can say, well, God's voice is like this, Satan's voice is like that. And then there's other people's voices and then your voice, okay? So let's go through each one of these. Right, so there's 4 voices and learn how to differentiate. God's voice is short and direct instructions. go do this. Stop doing that. Right? It's comforting and calming. So when you hear it, you think, is this comforting and calming? Yeah, it is. Okay, good. I hear God. I can hear God. Because that was brilliant. That definitely wasn't me, right? I didn't come up with that. Had a lady, she says, oh, I went to the spiritual place, called a temple, and she's like, I prayed, and then, oh, God told me this and this, and I was so mad, and I was afraid, and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, well, you sound like you're confused, and you sound, like you're not comforted. Are you sure that's the voice of the Lord? And she's like, oh, okay, I guess not, because we can be deceived, right? The voice, if you're hearing and you're not sure, guess what? You can ask again. Like, can you just come again? And tell me that whatever you just told me again. I just needed to hear it again, right? And it will be calming and comforting to your soul. It will be piercing to your heart, and your heart will resonate with truth and hope and understanding. Even if you're in the middle of this trial and struggle, you're like, yeah, somehow I feel peace. Somehow I feel hopeful that this is temporary. Somehow I know that I'm going to get through this, right? That is the voice of the Lord, right? And you can go to him for further, I wrote that wrong. You can go to him for further instructions as you go. Okay. So you can't just say, oh my gosh, how do I do that? That's something big and scary. Build an ark, keep coming to him and figuring out all the different details. Don't feel like it's just one instruction and that's it, and then you're left to be, this confused or whatever. He's going to guide you each step of the way. All right. So Satan's voice is doubtful, discouraging, dark, separating, confuses, pushes, rushes, worries you. And all you need to do is just pause, hear it, and say, oh, I'm doubting myself, and this is so confusing, and I'm worried, and I'm feeling, like this urgency, and really, it's negative urgency, right? This panic, being pushed. And the separation means, it just separate me and other people. I'm just going to hide and things. Oh gosh, all those negativities. Hang on, this is not God. This is Satan. Yeah, and you say, no, I'm not going to be doubtful. No, I'm not going to hide and separate myself. No, okay, that's all. Just rebuke it. Yeah. So I said this so much that my students, when I was teaching early morning Bible study in our church Paulette Seminary, these kids, when I have them come up and just kind of do a little bit of impromptu, maybe a little bit, it's like acting, right? Taking different roles and kind of like responding to problems, right? One kid was telling another kid, he's like, oh no, don't think that way. That's Satan talking. Rebuke that. And I thought, oh, I'm so proud of them. They did it. Like, that's Satan talking. Don't. Because I suck. I never want to go to church again. Blah blah blah. And the other kid's like, no, yeah, Satan talking there. I'm like, yes, they did it. They recognize that. All right. And there's other voices, and it may or may not be good advice. Okay, so if you have parents who are wise, you may hear the voice of your mother. You might hear her saying, remember to pray in this situation. And you're like, oh, yeah, I don't know why I can hear my mom. I'm going to pray. Yes, I'm going to pray now. All right, that's good advice. Maybe if you don't have great parents, and you might hear their negativity, and then, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes that loop, the parents get feeding into that loop, and the child thinks that I did bad, now I'm bad. The conditional love or the shame. There's some cultures that are really shaming their kids for whatever. Okay. So you have to recognize, like, okay, well, thank you for bringing my mum's voice into my remembrance. Maybe Satan will bring your mum's voice in, because, oh, she says that this, shame, right? That might be bad, but maybe God will bring up, a good person's voice and say, hey, remember your parents say these things, and, it's wisdom, right? So you're remembering things people say, and you get to choose whether you want to listen to this voice or not. So even in your mind, you can say, well, I hear my mom saying this. You know what? I am going to remember that and follow that, right? That's a good advice or whatever, okay? And then there's your voice, right? And your voice says that I can reason and I can be decisive and affirming to myself. I have that power. And sometimes you reduce your own voice and it's just, something that you don't recognize because you don't let yourself have an opinion about things, right? So now listen to your own voice and hear what it sounds like and know that you have the power and the freedom to choose. You can say to yourself, hang on, this voice is very calming and comforting. This must be God's voice. Yeah. I'm going to choose this and I'm going to anchor myself in that. And when doubt comes in, you're like, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to even entertain that thought. Go away. Cancel that. Yeah. So sometimes, when my kids say things, in our family, we say, cancel that. Right? What do you think, guys? Yeah. So when people say, oh, I did something bad, now I'm bad, you can say, cancel that. Right? Wouldn't that be great to have a tradition like that, guys? Yeah. My daughter, one of them, she was very nervous. We were enrolling her into a new school to have to do diagnostic test to place her. And she's like, oh, I'm so nervous. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. And she said that aloud. I thought, okay, very good for just that, correction, right? Because the brain says, oh, you're nervous, you can't do this. And then suddenly she switches out and she's like, I can do this. I can do this. And I thought, yay. Yeah. Self-regulating. How would that be, right? Watching your loved ones, catch themselves, self-regulate. So good. All right. So number 4, okay, is develop self-awareness and learn to use your power. Right? I remind my friends and my children, you have agency, okay? That means you can choose and you can choose to change, the power to change and the power to create. Make sure you're doing all of these things, okay? Right. So that means as you create, why don't you create a better version of yourself? And when you do that, it's self-discipline, self-mastery, right? If you listen to that negative voice saying, oh no, don't do that, you can't do it, right? And you're like, you're right, I'll just blah, right? That's not self-mastery. Self-mastery is that self-regulation and going, wait, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And what do I want in this? How do I create this? How do I design this? Right. So design your abundant life, abundantly joyful life. Okay. Sometimes I feel like I've made plans and then I hit it all. And then I'm at that point where I feel a little bit of a divine discontent. And I recognize like, oh, I haven't planned further. What do I want from here from this point onwards? I haven't thought about that. Yeah. I know there's big long-term goals, but what's the next, couple of years look like? And then I sit and design. So as I teach my kids to do that, I recognize that they're doing it all the time. So every night, even if it's late, my kids try to journal. They record the stuff that they experience and then their thoughts and then also what they want. Yeah. So it's a habit. It's a really good habit. Yeah. And that's using their power. Yeah, of keeping designing. I said, if you don't design, if you don't put your order in to Heavenly Father, you're not going to get anything, you know, or you get default. How boring is that? Right? So put your order in, you know, tell Heavenly Father, I want this. Can we do this together? Right? And then you can get it. So live intentionally, purposefully, without blaming and complaining. Yeah. As soon as we recognize that we're blaming and complaining, we can say, cancel that. Let's do it this way. Okay. Filter negative people, culture, traditions, patterns, and behaviors out. Right. So with our agency, you know, we can pause and say, that is negative culture. I didn't realize that. Okay, not doing that anymore. Okay, and you're allowed to, right? All right. So sometimes this helps. Okay, so I tell people, like, that worry that you have, that doubt that you have about something, does that matter in 5 years? Would that matter in the long term? You know, if it doesn't, then let's not focus so much energy on it. Right? Focus on things that matter the most, which are things that you can take with you beyond death. All right. So even sitting here thinking about this really kind of helps with clarity, right? And maybe this will help you too. So we have really 3 main things that we can take with us. Okay, and all of that, you know, is about our agency. Okay, our power to create relationships, the connections with them, our character, you know, creating and developing on who you are, and your knowledge. Those are the things you can take with you. All right, so I'm going to just give you a little bit more details. Like, you know, your family is important because that connection is important and that connection can last. So take the time to create priorities surrounding your parents and children and spouse and siblings and friends. Okay, those things you can take with you, right? And your character, right? So if we mess up and then we sit there and go, blah, I suck and I'll never come to anything, that's not developing your character. You know, have the courage to say, all right, that wasn't kind. I want to be a kind person. So what does kindness look like? Okay. And, you know, really focus on all of these traits. These are examples. You can add to that and make your own list. Kind, patient, loving, passionate, loyal, honest, positive, organized, calm, confident, caring, responsible, responsibility and integrity. Right. This is the kind of person I want to be. And journal about it and keep creating it in your mind. Right. And then writing it out. Yeah, I want to be a loving person. This is how I want to love. And this is how I show love and receive love. I just want to understand that. Okay, and knowledge, right? Knowledge of creating certain things, knowledge of organizing things, knowledge of connecting, how do I connect, knowledge of how to love and how to lead. All of those things we can take with us. So those should be our priority, right? And if this is our priority, hopefully it will outweigh that fear that holds us back and makes us sit there in the, you know, the dump, right? Help us move along. Okay. So I hope that helps. All right. So the 5th thing here is learn the skills to change culture, traditions, and self-imposed limitations. And this is what the energy balancing with faith course teaches you how to do in details. Okay, but I'm just going to give a summary here. Change your thoughts and beliefs, and it'll change your feelings and actions, and then it creates better results. So in my mind, sometimes, you know, some culture doesn't have to be like ethnic culture or whatever. It's just family culture even. You know, some families, they don't have a culture of eating dinner together. Okay. And you think, gosh, everyone's doing their own things. It's not a good culture. I'm going to change that. Right. So even with my siblings, since we've moved here, we have dinner at least twice a week. Yep. And we see each other maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Right. we do things together. And my parents made sure of that. They'll make excuses and come up with things to do. So we were always in each other's lives and stuff. And it strengthens our love, and we care for each other, and we check in with each other, and we text each other every day. That's good tradition. I like that, you know. So think about things that you're doing. Make a change if you need to, or, you know, if you identify something as, this is really good, this is positive, and this is building bonds, and, you know, building family bonds that we can last forever, then, you know, keep it and then develop it some more and teach your children and family the values that you have. Question culture traditions, if it doesn't lead to unity, respect, individual freedom, love, then it's out. Okay. And get rid of traditions of shame, self-reduction, conditional love, ignoring the heart compass. You know, the tradition of toxic masculinity, big boys don't cry. Nope, toss it out. Tradition of shame. Sometimes people shame others to manipulate them, to get them to do what they want. That's not good. Toss it out. Okay. I tell myself, you know, I can love people into change. I don't have to shame them into change. Yeah. Right. Or self-reduction, like, no, me last. No, it's not a tradition. We're equal. We're equal to each other. Yeah. Thank you. I receive. All right. So sometimes this is such a hurdle, because people think that they're going to dishonor their ancestors. But I'm like, well, before your ancestors came to earth, they were children of God with you and everyone else. So that is our true identity. Okay. And I don't even like to identify as, you know, oh, I'm from this certain tradition and therefore that's who I am. Right. Right. Sometimes in the world, we identify as our job. Right. So you are not your job, employment, education, age, or your income. Sometimes people are born very, you know, mature, like they kind of like old souls, right? So sometimes the age doesn't mean very much. Sometimes people are older and then they have such a young, youthful spirit. Okay, doesn't matter. Right? Let's remember that that is secondary, that it's not the primary identifier. Okay, your worth and value is beyond how you earn a living, okay, how popular you are, and how much respect people give you according to the measures of the world. Yeah. So I'm just a mum. You know, sometimes the world doesn't value motherhood. And we say, I'm just a mum. And they're like, oh, yeah, she's just a stay-at-home mum. Right? No, we don't have to measure ourselves like that. You know, you and Heavenly Father determine your worth. Okay? So this is how the world defines us as our worth and stuff. They'll say, oh, I'm a doctor, or I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, or whatever. Instead, can we say, I work as a doctor? Because it doesn't box you in. So because you're a doctor, you can't be an artist. You can't, you know, cook and do other things. A musician. Yeah. So just be mindful of our words, okay? Or I'm the fun one. So sometimes when we say that, it kind of boxes us in. And sometimes we're not fun, right? So can we change our language and say, I love having fun, and many other things too. Okay? I identify as blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's just say I'm a child of God. Or I'm a type A personality person. You know, you just say, I like being, you know, to be assertive at times, because it doesn't limit you. So when you speak, and if it feels limiting, then make sure you change that language. Okay, because this is kind of culture. The culture is people speaking when people speak, you know, and the culture comes through. Oh, he's difficult. She's difficult. You know, even if it's a little kid and they're, you know, behaving, you know, in a way that we're, you know, not happy with, you can say, oh, he is being difficult currently. Because that kind of gives them that freedom to change. It gives them the freedom to, you know, become more. Right? So if he is difficult, then suddenly that child thinks, oh yeah, I'm a difficult person. Or I'm a picky person. I just picky with all the food that we eat. Right. So if you just make it into a being, then it's progression, and there's this, you know, we continue to evolve. You know, take yourself outside the box. I'm an introvert. Why would you box yourself like that? You can say, well, I don't feel comfortable public speaking. You know, with public speaking. That's all. Maybe you'll feel comfortable next year. You know? So just listen to how you speak and ask yourself, is this boxing myself in, or am I, you know, free and outside the box? Yeah. Does that help, guys? Yeah, I just have one more slide. So if we're successful, right, then we'll be saying these things, right? I am a beloved child of God. I just know who I am. My life's ultimate purpose is divine progression, right? And I only listen to God's voice and my own, right? I am self-aware. I know how to use my divine power. And I have the skills to question and change culture, traditions, and self-imposed limitations. This is success to me, right? And imagine your loved ones, you know, saying these things too, believing these things too. What do you think?
Really appreciate it. This has been great.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, sometimes we just need to give people a prompt, just examples of sentences and ways to speak. But if we can be the example, that'll be better. Okay. So just for the recording, for those people who don't know, we have this energy balancing with faith course where you can be able to learn to be more powerful. All the things that we talked about today, it'll, you know, be in more details, and here are the details of how you can get the course. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording and we can have more of a discussion.